The story's just beginning. I say goodbye to my weakness, so long to the regret. And now I know that
Hey everyone, I'm with Brent Smith. Brent is the lead singer from Shinedown. They were just here for a concert. But Brent is also a graduate of South Doyle High School. So he's born and raised right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Welcome, thanks for having
me,
with
man.
us today. I appreciate
it's a pleasure, Mayor.
So tell us about your early years here in Knoxville.
I was born and raised here. My dad was a teacher here. My mom worked at First Tennessee Bank right up here off Gay Street. And you know what? I love this city. I had such an amazing upbringing. A lot of sports, so go Vols. You know, music, it was interesting with me though, because like at a very, very young age, I'm really the only musician in my family. So growing up, it was a little interesting, you know, because I played sports and what have you, but I was also into rock and roll. So, you know, my parents kind of were like, well, this is an interesting young man. But what people may not know about Knoxville is when I was coming up in the 90s and what have you, my high school years and what have you, Knoxville was a huge music bed. There were a lot of different bands coming from out of here. There was a band called Super Drag back in the day that got signed to a major label, and I was very much in that music scene pretty much from the time I was like 14, 15 years old. There's a lot of culture in Knoxville that, you know, as I come back and revisit it, it's very nostalgic, but the city, it was a great place to grow up.
You said you started performing in front of a live audience at 14 years old, right? Mm-hmm. Where was that at?
So we started off Market Square, the Mercury Theater. That was like the first place that, you know, I ever got to play. Bijou Theater, I got to play there. Back in the day, off Lovell Road, there was a place called the Prince Sports Bar and Deli. The music scene had gotten a little rougher, so some of the clubs had shut down and what have you. And you know, this gentleman who owned the Prince Sports Bar and Deli, it was really a safe haven for a lot of new bands that were coming up. The amount of time from the old city and Market Square and playing in Patrick Sullivan's back in the day and all of that. You know, I still have a massive effect, you know, my affection for this town from a musical standpoint just goes back to, you know, I was able to cut my teeth here.
So take us through this journey, like when you discovered that you love music, would like to pursue it as a career, and then what happened as you went through high school and beyond?
When I was growing up, I went to New Hopewell Elementary School. And then I was South Doyle Middle and then South Doyle High. I would have to say, now, if I'm being completely honest, my 9th grade year, I actually went to Farragut. Okay. And then because of some zoning issues, went back to South Doyle. The journey for me, ever since I can remember, I mean, pretty much from birth, I think, I'm doing today what I always wanted to do. And I always felt, I just had a vision, I was very driven. You know, growing up, parents wanted to make sure that I got an education. I played a lot of sports, but by the time I was probably like 16, 17 years old, it was becoming a very, very real thing for me. And then as I graduated high school, I left home and started playing in a lot of different bands and started kind of running the circuit and what have you. I was in a local band that has a little bit of a history. The name of the band was called Dreve. So Dreve was the first band out of Knoxville, Tennessee that was signed to Atlantic Records. Now Shinedown is on Atlantic Records and has been for the last 20 years, which is kind of an anomaly in the music industry anyway, for a band to still be on the same label. Same management, Bill McGathy, Indigood Entertainment. But ultimately, that band that I was in here, probably 9, 10 months of demoing, and then the band was actually, subsequently, it was dropped, and then I was signed to a development deal from Atlantic Records, which people sometimes are confused by that. They go, what do you mean a development deal? The A&R, his name is Steve Robertson, who's still the band's A&R to this day, he called me back, you know, after the band had been let go, and said, I want to sign you to a development deal. And I said, I have no idea what that means. And he said, well, what it means is, I think you're a songwriter, and I believe you're a performer, and I think that maybe you're just not with the right people. So that took me on a 3-year journey where it was trains, planes, and automobiles. I worked with so many songwriters and was all over the country, but the goal was always to develop a band and to put a band together. So the estate of Shinedown, it actually led me to Jacksonville, Florida, where I formed the band in 2001, and the rest is history. And we've been going ever since.
So for folks that aren't aware, Shinedown has had #1 hits. You've had multiple albums go gold, platinum, everything else. You've sold over 10 million albums.
It's closer to 20 now.
20 million albums, okay.
It's so like weird to even say that out loud.
But I mean, you're a big group, you're a big outfit. I think probably for me, one of the more interesting things is, you've been together for 20 years, and I know you've had some people leave and all that. But
first 2 records from the original band, the lineup did change during the 3rd record, which was really the album, The Sound of Madness, which a lot of people will know. That was kind of the turning point when, for myself and Barry, the drummer, Barry Kirch, who's been with me 22 years now. Upon the entrance of Zach Myers and Eric Bass in 2007, what those 2 individuals did that was so extraordinary is when they came into the band, all of a sudden the band started to actually find its sound. And we were working with a really important producer at the time during that album as well, named Rob Cavallo, who also was the producer of our next record, which was Amaryllis. But when Eric and Zach got in the band, that's when it started to feel like the band that it was always meant to be. And it's interesting because our audience and our fan base, which we call them Shinedown Nation from a global standpoint, I've often said this because it's true. In this band, we only have one boss. It just happens to be everyone in the audience. And our audience has allowed us to grow. They've allowed us to evolve. We try to never make the same record over and over again, and we do our best to never write the same song twice. So the music industry is not it's not for the faint of heart. There's an artistic element of it and being creative, but it is called the music business for a reason. And I think that, being in the industry for 20 years, I get a lot of young people that will come to me and ask me, what's the #1 of any advice you could give us, what would it be? And my main thing is, obviously you got to be true to yourself and be true to your art, but you also just have to practice constantly, and you got to play live. And I think that you also need to understand, own your publishing. I would tell you that too. Like, that's a big thing. If you're a songwriter, I always tell people, you write 100 songs. In my world, I hope that 10 of them are really strong, and I pray 1 is just phenomenal, and then you write 100 more. So you're constantly evolving. But that journey and what we do as a band, it allows us also to give back to our audience and to give back to causes that we feel very, very strongly about. We've been we're ambassadors for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And look, having social media can be a gift in a lot of ways. It's an amazing tool, but it can also be really devastating in some circles. And you have to understand that, we try to tell people, especially the young generation, remember you're in control of the device. The device doesn't need to be in control of you. So we're advocates for mental health, and we have been for a long time because we believe in people and we believe in humanity. And I believe that human beings, that we're inherently good, and we try to give that back.
You do work with suicide prevention and mental health awareness. Why do you feel those are important? And, you have this inspirational message in your music that I think is amazing. How did that come about, if you don't mind me asking?
I think that music is the only thing that I know of that can take somebody that is in a dark place or is in a rough part of their life, and instantaneously a song can show up in the blink of an eye and lift that person back up. I've watched music take the strongest man in the world that has just been brought to his knees and is just in a really rough patch in his life or what have you, and the right song comes on and all of a sudden he's back in the game. I've watched music take a young lady that maybe had fallen out of love with the world and maybe fallen out of love with herself and her self-respect, or however you look at it, and the right song comes on at the right time, and it ensures her again that she's okay and fills her with love. And it can also be, it's a bond that we have as people. There was a philosopher that once said, without music, life would be a mistake. And I tend to agree with that. And I think for whatever reason, the mental side and mental health, it's so important, because the way I look at it is this. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, whether you're younger, whether you're older, the color of your skin, that's irrelevant. Your religion, that's up to you. That's your business. That's what makes you who you are as an individual. But we're all here together. It goes back to what I said a moment ago, which was, I believe that human beings are inherently good and that we do want to take care of each other. So I would rather make sure that our music represents giving people strength. And don't get me wrong, you have to talk about the adversity in life, but you also, if you see somebody that's on a bended knee, just from what the world has kind of put around them, don't walk past them, pick them up, you know, because you never know when you're going to need that as well. So the music is a powerful tool in that, but I think a lot of ways, Mayor, I don't like to see people unhappy, and I understand the stress of, you know, what this world can, you know, present to us, but I also want people to know that it'll be okay. Like, it's not always going to be perfect every single second of the day. That's okay. And I know you heard me talk about it the other night. I do believe that whatever your A plan is for your life, whatever you truly want, even if it takes you a while to figure out what that is, that's what you should go after. Because whatever is going to fulfill you in your life, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there. And you don't need to be afraid of failure. You got to fail in life in order to know what to do next time. But your legacy in your life won't be built by your failure. Your legacy in your life and that foundation will be built by the fact that you refuse to give up. And we just try to influence people and give them strength.
I couldn't agree more. Being willing to fail. I mean, if you're not failing, you're not living, because the first time you do something, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it, you're not growing as a person.
And if it was handed to you, you wouldn't respect it as much.
Who cares?
You
Yeah.
you have to work for it. But getting frustrated is totally fine. That's okay. But what we just, and especially now, I have a 14-year-old son who's going to be 15 in December. Yeah. So it's very interesting to see the world through his eyes as well. But once again, I try to instill in him, and his mother, who is also from Knoxville, you know, me and her, we have a great relationship and very respectful of one another, and we instill that in him. But he teaches us stuff too, you know what I mean? So it's always, it's the calm that you have to try with this newer generation. They have a lot of obstacles, and I think it's important for us to listen and learn from one another and really be respectful to each other, because moving forward and having a future together, the only way to do that is to do it together. You
told me that the concert was the first time that you've been back at Thompson-Boling since you graduated high school.
The last time, 1996, when I walked across the stage to get my diploma.
What would Brent Smith in 2022, lead singer of Shinedown, big band, what would he tell a kid that age, Brent Smith at South Doa High School, when you're 14, 15, 16 years old? I think that I would have told myself, or I would tell myself the same thing that I tell myself today, which is be grateful and stay humble. My mom and my dad instilled in me a work ethic. My granny, who is still living, you know, she kind of, you know, all that upbringing, even though the musical side of me wasn't necessarily what the family had been used to, she always told me this. She said, if you wake up every single day and you want to be a doctor,
then be a doctor, but be the best doctor you can be. If you wake up every single day and you want to be a plumber or a dancer or a news broadcaster or mayor, you know, just be the best that you are capable of, but then go a little extra. You know, you have to love it, you have to want it, and you have to really want to give it everything that you have. So I would tell I would still tell myself, be grateful and stay humble, and work hard. Just keep working hard. You know, you get one opportunity at this life. And I believe that I believe we're all made up of energy. But what you do here, all of us have a reason we're here. Make sure you make it count, you know. But ultimately, outside of all that, you know, be grateful and stay humble.
That's good advice.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, man, I really appreciate your time. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been an absolute honor to hang out with you today, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lead singer Brent Smith is a 1996 graduate of Southall High School right here in Knoxville. So I've got something for him. This was designed and fabricated by advanced manufacturing students at Southall High School. And it is a key to Knox County. Brent Shinedown has entertained millions of people around the world, and I really love your inspirational message. So congratulations on all your success, and we wish you much continued success in the future.